Hello. So we are in Tilbrush. There's nothing here, but we're gonna go over the palette. The basically how we paint. We've got our wand basically for actually painting, and you can just press this trigger on the back, and then it will draw wherever you are in space. This first side you have here is for obviously choosing colors, so you can change brightness as well as the actual color. So red, color picker. If we want blue, you can select these options over here that are presets, but we can ignore those right now. You can go ahead and set presets if you would like. That's really good for, say, you're painting something and you want to swap between specific colors very quickly. You can go ahead and jump back and forth. There's a way to jump back to old colors. I'll show you that later. And you also have this just a different way to select colors. You got your hue, I believe it is here, and brightness is bottom left to top right instead of the reverse of it being over here. So let's choose a nice green color here, and you see the left and right arrows back there. You can swipe with your finger to move between different modes in this palette. We will go ahead and jump over to this brushes palette. These are all the different brushes you can use. So there's 3 pages here you can select from. And I will go ahead and I'll use each of these. They're each used for different things, and I could do like a whole video on what each brush is best or worst at, but I'll go ahead and select each and you can just see them. One other thing that I will say, while painting, you have a default brush size, but you can also swipe left and right on your paint hand to make that smaller or larger. So for the sake of letting you see all these brushes, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, zoom out. So we've got plenty of room. And I'll go ahead and start with oil paint, which looks a lot like oil paint. These names are going to be pretty descriptive. A lot of these are going to be very flat. Some are going to be 3D, so you can use them in different ways. We've got ink, which kind of looks like ink, literally like dripping. We've got thick paint, which is more like what you might see on, say, if you're trying to replicate a 2D painting, you would use thick paint and it looks pretty cool. It gives it some depth, some texture. We've got wire, very highlighter-esque. It is actually 3D, so if you do it like that, you can walk all the way around. It's hard to kind of notice the texture when you've only got a single color, but this is in 3D space here, so you can use that. Past wire, we've got a marker, which is very flat and kind of highlightery. It's very similar to this, but in a 2D plane. We've got tapered marker, which is, as it says, you'll see this point at the bottom, or if you start at the bottom, you'll get it at the top. You've got a pinched marker, does it on both sides. You've got a highlighter, which will highlight, and what's cool here is you can, because it's basically light, if you turn around, well, it's hard to see that way, but if you put it in front of something, it will highlight and be transparent. So let's move it back here. So it's highlighted in front of all of those, but if we step through, you no longer see it. You can do some really cool effects with that where you get some like depth of field and different things are highlighted depending on where you are. Let's go ahead and change colors for the next row. We got some reds. So flat can get quite large. Apparently, I didn't know it could get that large, but let's draw it up here. And it's exactly what it says. It's flat. You can tilt your brush as you draw it. So if you want to do like a paper effect, it's not the greatest because it tries to stitch it all together, but some of the other brushes work better than that. You can kind of see like a ripple effect there. Tapered flat, you're going to see the same thing. We're going to go back to a smaller brush size, but you get that taper effect in the direction that your brush is going. Pinch flat is both directions. Soft highlighter is very similar to the highlighter, so we'll draw it on its own here, but also in front of something, say back here. So everything is very like highlighted through it, but of course if you look around it, it's no longer. We got these here earlier. So on the next page, we've got some weirder ones. They're no longer like literally what you would use to paint with. Let's go ahead and change to a blue, and let's go over here. And you'll also notice this grid. This is just defining the area of where I can walk around the room. So I have a VR headset on, so I don't have to walk into any furniture. I know this area is safe. You set that up when you first set up your headset, so we don't need to worry about that here. So light. Now let's just walk over some more. We got light here. Very bright, kind of a fluorescent neon. It is flat. We've got fire. You would think would need to be red, but does not. It's got an animated effect with looks super cool. Say if you put a bunch of them together to get more of a 3D fire. It kind of glows. It's got an animation. We've got embers, which you can draw. They've got a particle effect that hangs out in the air wherever you draw them. So obviously good to have around fire. We've got smoke, which I'm going to draw over here so you can see it better, but it's just kind of a static fog. Looks super cool on like wintry nights. Draw it around like street lights, things like that. You've got snow, which I'm not even painting, you just see it flying everywhere. But wherever you do paint it, we'll have snow falling. So there was a small stretch there, and it just dispersed it however in the field, or in the area. You've got rainbow, which I'm not sure actually what different colors do here. So there's a blue one and here's a green one. Do they look any different? Not really. Maybe this one's got a little more blue in the middle. This one's got a little green in the middle. I'm not entirely sure. That's entirely fine. We've also got stars, which is very similar to snow, but more localized, brighter. You can see the difference in effect there. We've got velvet ink. Let's make it a little bit bigger and you can see that. It's kind of similar to some of the more basic ones over there. I'm not exactly sure which one most similar, but you get this tapered effect. It's kind of just kind of sparse in the paint coverage, so you can play with that. And I gotta do some sort of video on what all these are good for, but we'll just make it quick here. Waveform, which is also a really cool one. I'm gonna draw it horizontal because look at that. And if you draw it faster, it's about the same, but you can go bigger and smaller. If you do smaller durations, the frequency changes. This is also super cool. We'll see another one similar, but if you do it really small, you can do kind of a heartbeat effect like that. I mean, picture this on some sort of doctor's monitor. like this, so you get a readout. And I went behind it a little bit, but that's of course 3D, so there's some work to do there. Splatter's really cool, not only for actual splatters, but it's super cool like paint style. If you want to paint entire paintings in a single brush. Here's just what splatter looks like. And you can just layer it on, and it gets this really cool sort of outline effect. It's not entirely, I mean, you can fill it in all the way, but it's kind of like an effect that you see in more casual paintings where, of course, there's a lot of work into it, but it doesn't give off the perfect appearance that you would get by like perfectly filled in brushes. You've also got duct tape, which is very good for very large flat surfaces. Let's show the back of it as well. It's got this kind of texture on it on both sides, as you'll see. We've got paper. Sorry, I keep walking into that. That's all right though. Paper is got a little bit of texture in it, like some wrinkles. It's very similar to duct tape. Draw them side by side. But also very cool. So on the third and final page, we get even weirder ones. And we are going to paint a little bit lower. So we got some coarse bristles here, which is good for leaves on the ground, fur, things like that. Toon is a really cool one. It's another one of those brushes that you can do an entire art style or an entire painting in. Let's do some of that, but check this out. It's very like that one game that's like a shooter that everyone loses their mind over that you can have a bajillion guns in. I forget what it's called, Borderlands maybe? It's super cool. It's kind of that art style, and it's super easy to paint and kind of sculpt these 3D figures because it's got such a good shape on it. You can pull a trigger and while you're inside something and draw out. And of course this isn't anything, but it's super cool. Like, it's just a thing coming out of the wall. Who cares? And that's the Toon brush here. So you've also got electricity, which is the similar one to this. I'll draw it up here. And you can, of course, do it wherever you want. We've got streamers, also pretty cool. It's a very fun, it's like a mixture of the highlighter and electricity. It's got sort of an animation translucent effect. I'm not actually sure how jarring it is to like be watching this and walk into things. It's a little jarring when I turn my head and see things just immediately pop up. So we'll see how that is, but here's some cool streamers. When you get the brush larger, you see more of the details. You can't really see that when it's small, but I use this. I want to tell like what I use everything for, but let's keep going. Hypercolor is super cool. If you lived in like the 80s or the 90s, you probably recognize things that you've seen this on. It's kind of like a holographic effect. It's super cool. Bubbles, very similar to stars and snow. You paint it on. I'll paint quite a few bubbles here, but then they just chill in the area. They float around. Super cool. Neon pulse. So here is a large neon pulse around my whole area. And I guess they don't line up exactly, but you can see as follows the whole line. So maybe if so this shoots a little bit before or a little bit after it comes in. So let's try and draw it in and get these two in sync. So 1, 2, 3. It's kind of like 2 3/4 seconds. So I kind of got them in sync. So it goes like that. it's pretty cool. You can do some cool stuff with it. So Disco, a very similar one to Toon. It's got a 3D effect like this. It's pretty trippy. It's got kind of sci-fi vibes. Also, obviously, that 3D sort of structure doesn't actually combo too well with Toon, like in terms of style complementation, but still really cool. Hypergrid, one I don't use too often, but check it out. Draws these grids and like links them together, or draws these squares, I guess. You can just kind of like fill it in. It just goes super deep on squares, and you can go ahead and change some colors, put some different colored squares in there, give it some depth. Lots you can do there. I haven't played with it too much. Lightwire, good for whatever you want it to be good for, but here's what it looks like. You get this weird rope-shaped thing, and every once in a while you get a light. And they will light up for you periodically. I am trapped in my cord, so here we go. Chromatic Wave is second to last one. Looks like this. It's a kind of a mix between rainbow and one of these. So let's go ahead and draw it in here so we can see this. Let's show what it looks like at the largest size and smallest size. Very similar, but they fluctuate a little bit differently. And lastly, we have dots, which let's switch to yellow for, because it's super easy to see them. And the small size, they're like, they're small dots. So there you go. Alright, so that's all our brushes. There's also this audio reactor and music visualization. I've never used this, so play some music on your computer. Looking for audio. I will try that sometime. I've never used it, but I'll get back to you on that. It's obviously something you don't have to use. You don't have to use any of this or all of this, but there's so many different brushes you can use for painting. You might as well play around with what all you've got and see what you can make with them. So, lastly, we've got this final panel with some extra tools. We've got our color, our brushes. Now we have an eraser, which gives you this sort of rotating globe. And how it works is you can pull on this trigger, and whenever the globe is turning red, when the trigger is pulled, if you touch it to anything, it will just delete it. So you can be very precise in what you delete. Just touch whatever you want, or you can just go in and destroy everything. So we've also got a straight edge, which works in conjunction with the brushes. So I will turn the straight edge off. And as you'll see, a Toon, I can do this sort of wavy design here. If I have a straight edge turned on, then if I do that, it tries to draw a straight line. So I can stretch out however long I want, make sure it's super straight. And you let go, and you have a straight line. Super cool. It's very easy for like creating things that you need straight, of course. So next we have up a dropper, which I told you can create these presets here, but the dropper you can go ahead and touch it to things. It will say, this is Disco, trigger to confirm. This is Toon. This is Splatter, and this is duct tape. You press the trigger, now you will have duct tape of this color. So if I go back to dropper, now we have splatter in that color. Now we have the pinched marker in that color. Super handy. Alright, mirror mode we will come back to, because it's super cool. Cameras. This lets you take snapshots of what you've drawn, so I can walk to this corner here and give me a viewfinder. So position it however you'd like. You can drag it around like that by swiping. Oh, it's camera or video, that's cool. So here's camera, you just take a picture, save the snapshot, or you can go ahead and take a video, just walking on through. Now we're a video in a video, so I don't know about that. And you just press the trigger again to save, and you're good to go. Next up, we have some way to get out of the video, of course. Okay, you press this top button right above the touchpad. Next we have undo and redo, of course. So here's some things. That was a single brush stroke. This is a single brush stroke. That's a single brush stroke. You undo per brush stroke, and you can redo per brush stroke. In the same way that you can't delete just a part of a brush stroke. It's very much per brush stroke. So when you're painting, you want to let go of that trigger every once in a while. You can not do this. Okay. So yeah, whenever, I guess it should be said, when you're an eraser, there's this top button right next to the spinning globe on your controller. You just press that and it gets rid of it. So, environment. I have not used this, but I believe it's, the background. It's kind of like a skybox effect. You've got different colors you can use. I think there is like a forest, maybe. Let's check out all these. You got a black background, that's pretty cool. Very nice focus on everything that you've drawn. So these are very bright colors, so everything looks really well on black. You've got white, which is also good for the blank slate. You've got blue, which is surprisingly good too. Oh right, here's there's two pages here. These ones should be environments. So standard kind of has these mountains in the background, or maybe they're hills, who knows. You've got a night sky, which is going to have super cool stars. And of course, if you peek on through here, I am outside of my zone, but I know where my furniture is. It's got kind of some hills in the background, but mostly it's that sky. You've got space, which, good luck. That's the night sky, but everywhere. And yeah, I get lost just looking at all this. You've got dress form, which I will show you momentarily because we need to zoom for it. But we've also got a pedestal, very similar. It looks very tiny, you'll see why. So let's draw something on there. And we have a snowman, of course. So snowman in the same way has some cool Goku hair right now. We are below the ground right now, so you can't see your controllers. You can move that, actually. Let's go ahead and show you how to move that. So, to move around or scale, there's these two buttons on the side. You just press them both at the same time, and either move your controllers closer or farther away. Further away, you're going to get smaller, but everything else will get bigger. And if you bring them in closer, you will get larger, which of course makes everything bigger. You have this handy viewfinder here, so right now I'm about the size of a dinosaur, as you can tell by the snowman. But if I go down to like an elephant, snowman's a little bit bigger. Human, I'm about the size of a snowman. I'm a little bit further down, so if you want to go up or down, you can press those two buttons and just drag in a direction without changing the distance between them. So that's about the right size for a snowman if I'm human. If I look like this, that's me. Yeah. And of course, now that we are the proper size, show you that dress form. I'm going to get closer to it, so I'm going to drag closer, and I'm going to go ahead and erase that thing that I drew, as well as these things over here, just to stop some distractions. So you can also, in the same way, rotate. You can notice that my controllers are staying equidistant, except for when I want to move around. And so now you have the capability of drawing, say, like a dress or a coat. You just draw directly on this sort of mannequin. And you can walk around it and check it out, draw things on the back, and so on. I skipped over the pedestal, but it is the exact same thing. Of course, it's all in 3D, so wow, all that stuff is so big now. I think that was all the environments. Let's just check out space real quick. Oh, right, so in space you also get a planet in the center, and you can do cool things like starting inside the planet and drawing out. That's super cool with like electricity. You can get like spaceships shooting at the planet, things like that. But I wanted to check, does the skybox change if you zoom in or out? It does not. So let's go all the way back in, because that's super cool seeing everything that we did just all around us. I think we are just about done. Let me switch to the standard environment. So we have a ground. And I'm going to get a little bit closer to it by dragging up. So here, we have this teleport functionality, so we can just select it and press the trigger anywhere, and we will teleport to that location. So it's very useful for when you've got large scenes, you want to move around, but you don't have a large play area. You just teleport in that way. It's also a little bit easier than moving yourself around like this, because you're going to be like accidentally scaling stuff around, or up or down, or all these different things. So we'll skip over more tools, because it's one, stuff I haven't used, but two, like lab stuff and stuff that I don't think works properly all the time. And we will go directly to the sketchbook. So every time you create a sketch, you have a blank canvas. You can paint anything you want. You can save it at any time. You can save it and then save it into a new sketch, duplicate sketches. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Whenever you do, it asks you to take a representative picture of it. We're going to go with this. It's added to sketchbook, and then at any time you can clear your sketch, which you definitely want to save before doing this, because it does this. You can also upload to the cloud. I haven't actually used that too much, but I think there's just a website that you can go to that you can view like 3D stuff. And you can go to your sketchbook here. And there are your sketches, featured sketches, and liked sketches. I've not liked any. The featured ones are where I showed you originally. There's lots of different pages of that, but also there's your sketches, so everything that you've created. So you can go ahead and load sketches from here. You just click on it and press the trigger. I think it's supposed to play like you actually drawing it. I think, yeah, that's what's happening over there. So you can, let's get a little bit closer so you can see. I'm going to drag in this way. But you can press the trigger to quick load it, which will automatically load it all. Or you can sit here and watch it play. And this just records whenever you're painting, you will basically be doing exactly this, and it records each of your brush strokes. So when you save your sketch, it will be able to play it back like this, which is super cool. And this is a tree that I drew the other day. So it is just playing, and I mean, it's of course not terribly good, but it's super cool to just be able to like walk in and see it all play back. I'm gonna go ahead and hold the trigger to quick load so we can see the end. And I'm gonna zoom in all the way and bring myself down to the ground. And this is what it's supposed to look like. With you see some streamers over there. I use the splotching for the leaves. Tune for the trunk and branches. You can see I forget what it's called, the brush that does the lights that go up like that we timed two together. There's also the rope lights, and you can see some dots up there. I guess I can literally just fly up and show you guys. But you got some, oh boy, you got some dots, you got rope lights. This is all splotching. Here's some streamers going down, some larger streamers. This was all coarse bristles for the ground. If you zoom all the way out, we've got some stars up above just to give some cool background from underneath. You can kind of see it poking through like that. This is a little bit dizzying because I don't know how I feel about heights. But let's put myself on a branch. Okay, we're fine. And yeah, this is I mean, this took not too long to draw like this super awesome tree. And you can save it, you can export it into like 3D modeling stuff. You can share it online. I think you can share it to other people so they can see it in Tilt Brush and then like resume on it. So if somebody wanted to load it in, be like, oh no, this needs some electricity coming out like that. They can do it and save it and send it back to you. Don't think two people can work on it at the same time, but that's it. We've got some cool effects here. I think that's snow, but that is Tilt Brush and how to use this seemingly complicated panel of options here. So I hope you enjoy it, and since this is on YouTube, feel free to go paint some cool stuff and leave links in the comments so I can go see it, because I pretty much just load this up and I'm like, oh, Lightwire looks cool. What does that look like? Like that? What can I draw with that? So I'm always super curious about what people are building, like what I can make. Definitely want to try out some new stuff. So I'm probably going to get some water now and go paint something. But that's the end of this video. Enjoy. Have a good whatever day it is today. See ya. My computer is across the room, so see you on the other side.